Flexible and responsive teaching in the art classroom. I have the unique opportunity as an art teacher to really gauge my curriculum to the needs of my students. My curriculum is flexible in that, although there are certain concepts that I need my students to understand, there are so many different and effective ways that I can teach them. Getting to know my students and developing a rapport with them helps me to effectively teach them. Because I have the unique opportunity of teaching the same students year after year, I am better able to do this the longer I teach. Although I'm able to cater my curriculum to my specific students, no matter how much planning that I do, it is always necessary to make mid-course adjustments. There are a few teaching methods that I find effective if the majority of my students are not understanding the learned concepts. The first one is stop the lesson and teach it in a different way. There is more creativity involved in teaching effectively in the art classroom than the obvious way. If the majority of students obviously do not understand the lesson, I need to step back and figure out a different way to teach it. I always abide by the rule that if it's only a few students, I will visit them individually and better explain something to them. If it's more than that, then it's time for me to teach it to the whole class in a different way. The second one is adjust the whole project. Sometimes when I create a project, I can overestimate the time that it will take for my students to finish. Occasionally, I will need to tweak certain aspects of a project to fit the allotted time frame. If it is only a few students who are falling behind on a project, I will have them visit me during their free time to finish. Alternative approaches. There are many approaches for students who either strive or struggle in the art room. Although I teach so many students, I have the goal to reach each individual student. For students who are struggling, the best method that I have found is to break down a project into smaller steps. Then I make sure to visit them to ensure they are grasping the material. Sometimes a project can seem overwhelming to a student, and having less to deal with can help them to attain the objective for the project. There are many students who I teach who are immensely talented in art, and it is my good fortune to help them to grow their talent and to help them nurture their love for art. For these students, I create opportunities to have them create more projects and teach them one-on-one or help them sign up for contests and classes outside of school. Adjusting instruction based on student feedback. Because I teach art to elementary students for 40 minutes every 6 days, each week is important to me to question my students to see what they remember from the previous week. Hearing what my students were able to take away from the lesson the week prior helps me to figure out the best way to move forward. I make sure to take time to review each important concept learned to refresh my students' memory. At the end of each project, especially for the older grades, I like to have them complete a self-reflection rubric. This helps me to see how they think they did and also helps me to gauge what they got out of the lesson. This also helps me to build upon this knowledge for the next lesson and to figure out how I would teach this lesson if I were to do it again in the future. Forming effective partnerships. There are so many ways to form effective partnerships in the elementary art classroom. First one is parent volunteers. There are many opportunities for parents to volunteer in the art classroom, whether it be for one of the art shows or in the classroom itself. This helps to engage the parents in the learning of their child and also gets the child excited that their parent is involved. Second one is communicating with parents of students who are struggling and those who are thriving. It is imperative that I let a parent and their regular education teacher know when a child is struggling in the art room. This can help shine a light on a bigger issue and help a student receive early intervention. When a student is doing well in the art room, on the other hand, I like to let a parent and their teacher know as well. I can use the tools that I have available to me to help them grow their skills. Communicating with parents about what is going on in the classroom. I find that creating projects that are cross-curricular is so beneficial to my students. Communicating with their teachers helped me to create projects that incorporate what they are learning in their classroom. I also like to communicate with parents via the class newsletter to let parents know what the students are learning and how it relates to what they're learning about in their classroom. This helps the parent be able to ask specific questions to their child about what they're learning about and helps them to engage with their child.